fellow NAIRA members, friends of NAIRA, and my fellow Republicans. Thank you so much for attending this 13th annual banquet. As Narsh alluded earlier, we're 13 years older. I first want to give special thanks to the offices of Congressman Cory Gardner, Mike Kaufman, Doug Lamborn, and Scott Tipton. For you and your staff, every time we come to Washington, you open the doors for us, even though you guys are very busy, so thank you. Well, it has been a very eventful year compared to a year ago, when I stood in front of you with great hope and excitement, for it seemed that we were going to keep the House, the Senate was a toss-up, and maybe a new president. We were at this time already thinking how we will pick up pieces of the failed policies of tax and spend called liberalism in the guise of progressiveness and hidden aptitudes of socialism. Also on how we will move our country to a better path. For this country of ours always stood tall and proud of its heritage, its founding principles of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, yes, it's been a tough year, a bitter year in the wilderness as per se. I have asked myself and wondered what the many pundits have said since we lost in the November nightmare. But after the dust settled, I have come to realize that it is not the fault of the Democrats, it is not fault of the president, nor the media. It is the fault of those very pundits who gave us John McCain, gave us Bob Dole, and yes, Romney too. For sure, after the primaries, these pundits took over the party with their own agenda and ran to the polls thinking the people will follow them to the ballot box. You see, the truth is, my fellow Republicans, our message of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness got lost in the way of appeasement and appeasement to the left. Yes, our message of individual rights and the true rewards of hard work and free enterprise to what we call the American dream got lost in the way of giving up to those very principles to look like a liberal, walk like a liberal, and talk like a liberal. And at the end, the people didn't know the difference between a Republican and a Democrat. So they just voted to keep the same. Yes, those very pundits then decided to write as to how we lost the elections with a new message. Let's define the very foundations as to what the Republican Party stands for. Let's change the philosophy to what sounds cool today. And with that hope and change, they now want us to follow them again to the same polls in 2014. And yes, their new definition of the Republican Party looks just like the Democratic Party. You can't tell the difference. I personally think that the Republicans have moved to the left of the Democratic Party. The fundamentals of how we communicate our message are rather given up in the place of appeasement. As Maggie Thatcher always said, we must first win the argument, then the election. On Obamacare, when you have the Obama administration delay more than 30% of the foundations of Obamacare, and furthermore, they waive Obamacare for people in Washington, well, if it ain't good for them, it ain't good for the American people. I say, make a stand for the American people, for over 60% don't want it. Defund Obamacare, win that argument. On unemployment, when you have the highest unemployment and continue to tax and spend the American people, creating the largest food stamp population, it ain't working either. cut the spending, reduce the size of government, win that argument. On immigration, if you think by legalizing millions of illegal aliens so you can win elections, no, you are kidding yourself. Yes, we must reform immigration. I say that's an easy fix. Give them work permits and renew them annually. They just want to work. No pathway to citizenship. So giving the liberals decades more power and enforce the borders. Start with that for a start. Win that argument. Our founding fathers who wrote the First Amendment, for good reason, after that wrote the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms and to defend yourself. On gun control, when they tell you that the guns are the blame for the so-called gun violence, which is a liberal code for gun grab. The highest gun-related deaths are in the highest gun-controlled cities, which, by the way, are run by Democrats for decades. I say, enforce the gun laws and stop social engineering your populace, for it ain't working. No one's going to take our Second Amendment rights away. No one, and win that argument. Fellow Republicans, these arguments, you will not only win the hearts and minds of the American people, but you will win elections. We must go back to the message. We must go back to what our founding principles, the idea that any individual who has the aspirations to achieve the American dream is there for anyone who wants it. And to achieve this, fellow Americans, we must first make a stand. We must first fight for what our founding fathers sacrificed so much. For they too saw days like this. Appease and have your spirits broken, or fight for this great idea that we so enjoy every day, individual freedom and liberty. We have an opportunity, and all the grassroots representation in this room, I'm sure they agree, that the question is, how do we make a difference? Every day, this president of ours has been chipping away the very idea of free enterprise, our liberties, and the constant attack on our Constitution. He hates the Constitution and what it stands for. So as a first-generation American, or immigrant, I should say, but it just comes naturally, I'm an American, who has moved 3 continents, I must tell you, the founding fathers not only got it right and fought for this idea, what they took from the Magna Carta, they refined it, fine-tuned it, those very principles that made an even a better document, what we call the Constitution, that no other country in the history of man has dared to do or envision. And furthermore, they declared those principles on a piece of paper, that your liberty is solely derived and ordained by God. And you are beholden to no force on earth but God Himself. This is very powerful. No king, no government, no dictator on this God's earth dare to declare those fundamental rights on a piece of paper and call it the law of the land. This is what the president has a disdain for. And this is what our Constitution is. This is what our message is. To the Colorado sheriffs that have led the way, not just in Colorado, but the nation, you dared to draw a line in the sand. We owe that to you. For you bring a new meaning to the phrase protect and serve. It's protect and serve the Constitution. To all the candidates for governor and all other offices, I ask you, let the primaries be clean. Let not prejudice or pride devour our candidates in the primaries, for the winner of those primaries are often beaten up that they don't have a chance in the general. That's been the case of recent past. So to my friends, the time has come. The time has come to those who we send to Washington. We ask you to pause, to listen, and work for the people that send you there, not the pundits. Time has come. The time has come for people to stand up and be recognized. Demand that your voices be heard. Yes, time has come. For we, the people, stand tall and proud, the citizens of this great country, the United States of America, to take our country back for the future of our children and their children, depends on what we do today. To that, I ask you all to fight together and take back of the ballot box on 2014. Thank you, and God bless America. Thank you.